All right, welcome back, everyone. In part one, we got the ball rolling, laid down the essential groundwork. But today we're kicking it up a notch. We're diving into the books that are going to build your tactical muscle, deepen your strategy, and really forge that master's mindset. You ready? Let's jump in.
Let me ask you something right off the bat. What if just one book could completely flip the switch on how you see the chessboard? I know, it sounds like a pretty bold claim, right? But stick with me because we're about to explore a handful of books that have done exactly that for countless players over the years. And listen, we're not just going to throw a list of books at you. No, we've got a plan. It's a path to mastery. First, we'll tackle the mental game, how you think. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of tactics and strategy. After that, it's all about conquering the endgame. We'll learn from the absolute legends of the game, and at the very end, we'll figure out what your next move should be. Think of it as our roadmap to getting seriously better at chess.
Okay, first stop, thinking before you move. Because here's the thing, before you can ever play like a master, you've got to learn to think like one. Real, lasting improvement, it's not about memorizing a bunch of openings. It's about upgrading the software running inside your head.
And for that job, there is no better tool, honestly, than The Amateur's Mind by the great Jeremy Silman. If you're rated anywhere under 2,000, this book is an absolute revelation. Its whole purpose is to bridge that huge, gaping chasm between how amateurs look at a position and how masters see it.
So what's the big difference? Well, it really boils down to this. Amateurs, and we've all been there, we get obsessed with material. Am I up a pawn? Am I down a knight? But masters, they're playing a different game. They're thinking in terms of imbalances. They're asking completely different questions. Whose pawn structure is better? Who's got more space? Which pieces are actually doing something? See, those imbalances, they create these lasting strategic advantages that are way more powerful than just being up a single pawn. Silman teaches you to put on these master goggles. And trust me, when you start seeing the board that way, it is a total game changer.
All right, so Silman helps rewire your strategic brain. Fantastic. But what about all those mental traps, those psychological tripwires we all fall for? Well, for that, we've got to talk about Jonathan Rowson's masterpiece, The 7 Deadly Chess Sins. And this one isn't about finding the best move, it's all about the psychology of why we mess up in the first place.
The whole point here is to understand the why behind your blunders. Rowson breaks it down into these sins. Like, have you ever been guilty of perfectionism? Spending forever looking for that one perfect move, only to find yourself in horrible time trouble? Or how about egoism? That's when you get so wrapped up in your own genius plan that you totally, completely miss the simple threat your opponent has been cooking up. This book is all about metacognition, basically thinking about how you think. It's like holding up a mirror to your own bad habits, and just being aware of them is half the battle.
Okay, Section 2, Mastering Tactics and Strategy. Our minds are sharpened, we're aware of our psychological pitfalls. Now it's time for the grind. This is where we roll up our sleeves and build the raw firepower, the calculation, the deep strategic understanding that actually wins games. Okay, I'm going to throw a number at you. 5,334. Just let that sink in for a second. What is that? It's not a FIDE rating. It's not some random year in history. That is the number of problems in one of the most legendary, most intense chess training manuals ever put together.
That massive number belongs to Laszlo Polgar's book, simply titled Chess. And yes, that's Polgar as in the father of the incredible Polgar sisters. His philosophy was simple. Geniuses are made, not born, through tons and tons of practice. And this book, it's that philosophy made real. Look, most of these puzzles are simple mates in 1, 2, or 3. This isn't about some deep positional struggle. It's about pure, relentless pattern recognition. You just drill these tactical ideas into your brain over and over until you see them in your sleep.
So we've gone from raw calculation drills to applied genius. And for that, we have to talk about Bobby Fischer's My 60 Memorable Games. I mean, this is, without question, on the Mount Rushmore of chess books. But here's the key. It is so much more than just a collection of amazing games. It's like getting a VIP pass directly into the mind of one of the most brilliant, complex, and brutally honest players ever.
And this quote, this one really says it all. He's talking about his opponent getting quiet, and he says he suspects the guy has tuned into my brainwaves. I mean, who writes like that? He's not just analyzing moves, he's describing the whole psychological drama unfolding at the board. And he's just as tough on himself, too. He'll straight up admit when he was outplayed. It's that honesty that makes the book not just educational, but genuinely inspiring.
All right, let's talk about something that is a huge divider between club players and the pros. Pawn structure. You ever get out of the opening and just
Feel completely lost? You're not sure what to do next? 9 times out of 10, it's because you don't understand the pawn structure. It's like the skeleton of the position. It dictates where the pieces want to go, what the plans are, everything. And for this, Johan Helston's Mastering Chess Strategy is an absolutely fantastic guide.
And here's what that actually means for your game. Once you learn to recognize, say, a Carlsbad structure, a light bulb goes on. You instantly know the standard plans. You know White's probably going to try a minority attack on the queen side, and Black's plan is to fight back in the center. All of a sudden, you're not just reacting to your opponent's last move. You have a plan, you have a long-term strategy. And let me tell you, that is a massive, massive leap forward.
Okay, on to our third section, conquering the endgame. Because let's be real, you can play the most brilliant middle game of your life, but if you can't convert the advantage, it's all for nothing. This is the final phase where games are won, lost, or sometimes miraculously saved.
Now, when you ask people how to study the endgame, you often run into this, well, let's call it the great endgame debate. It really comes down to 2 phenomenal books that approach the topic from totally different angles. Both are amazing, but they have very different philosophies.
So which one should you pick? Well, here's the breakdown. Jeremy Silman's book is all about being practical. The best part? It's broken up by rating level. So if you're a 1400 player, you only study the stuff that's actually going to show up in your games. It is hands down the perfect first endgame book. On the other side, you have Jesus de la Villa's 100 Endgames You Must Know. This one's more like a technical manual. It's about memorizing the absolute must-know theoretical positions. So what's the verdict? Honestly, the general advice is solid. Start with Silman to get the practical foundations, to learn how to think. Then use de la Villa to drill the critical theory.
And now for my favorite part, Section 4, Learning from the Legends. This is where we get to stand on the shoulders of giants. The next few books, they're not just about X's and O's. They're about soaking in the wisdom, the unique styles, and the incredible stories of the greatest players to ever touch a chessboard.
First on our list is an absolute classic, Richard Reddy's Masters of the Chessboard. Now, Reddy himself was a top player, a pioneer of the hypermodern movement. But this book, this is like his love letter to the evolution of chess. That quote from Raymond Keane says it all. Reddy turns chess analysis into an epic saga. He takes you on a journey through the different eras, from Morphy's romanticism to Alekhein's dynamism, and he explains not just the moves, but the ideas behind them. It's a history of chess thought, and it's beautiful.
Next, if you want to be dropped right into the heart of the golden age of Soviet chess, you have to read David Bronstein's The Chess Struggle in Practice. This book is all about one legendary tournament, Zurich 1953. This was the candidates tournament, the absolute pinnacle of chess at the time. And Bronstein, who was right there in the thick of it, gives you this incredibly vivid, thrilling play-by-play. That quote is perfect. It really does feel like you have a ringside seat. You can almost feel the tension in the room.
And finally, something completely different, a truly special book called Russian Silhouettes by Gena Sasanko. This isn't about improving your game, not directly anyway. It's a collection of deeply personal and moving portraits of the great Soviet masters. See, Sasanko knew these guys. He was their friend, and he writes about their lives, their dreams, their struggles, their humanity. You get to know Mikhail Tal, the magician from Riga, not just as a brilliant attacker, but as a complex, troubled person. It's a beautiful reminder that these legends were real people, and their stories are just as fascinating as their chess.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. We've walked this path to mastery together, from changing how you think to learning from the greats. So, for our final section, let's talk about your next move.
So, after all of this, it all comes down to one question, doesn't it? Which of these books are you going to start with? Which one jumped out at you and made you think, yes, that's what I need? Is there one that targets that one weakness you know you have? Just making that choice, that's the real first step on the path.
So here's what I want you to do. Make a commitment to yourself right now. Drop a comment below and tell me which book you're picking up first. I'm genuinely curious to see what you choose. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this deep dive. Now go on, get out there, and make your next move your best one yet.